So, hey, Mark, thanks so much for joining me to answer my question about 10 times, which just to give everyone listening, Mark responded to a question in Facebook with a great suggestion about capitalizing on traveling to other places and finding gigs to speak at. And I thought, oh my gosh, this sounds like such a great idea. I have a million questions. And so we thought we would record this conversation so that y'all can listen in on Mark's wisdom and we can all have a better shot at getting more events in more places.
Well, and thank you, Claire, for having the brilliant idea to record it and post it because it's silly to do this once and not have everybody benefit, right? So fantastic. Uh,
Exactly.
and and big shout out to David Avern, who many of you watching this will know, because he is the person that I learned this from. In fact, I think it was at a CAPS event, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, pass it along to somebody else. It's always, whenever I learn something from someone there, it almost always has come from somewhere else. And every time I share something with somebody, it's because I learned it from somewhere else. So pay it
Exactly.
forward. Pay
So
it
shout
forward.
out to David for passing on his insights as someone who logs a lot of miles.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I
appreciate
know
that.
he and his assistant Tiffany are very methodical about this. We're not there yet. My assistant and I, in my business, with using 10 times, but we are getting better. And so the idea with this tool versus some of the other tools that maybe you're already using to find events or find places to speak is that it does a great job of showing you when and where the event is happening as well. So depending on what market you work on, we work a lot in associations, and so we'll go to an individual association's website, and we might be able to figure out when the next conference is. Maybe sometimes yes, sometimes no, often no. And if we can, then it's not always clear where it is.
Mm,
Um, but once we book those, so this works really well once you've got a couple of things on calendar, or you want to do some personal travel and you'd like to maybe work while you're already going to be somewhere.
yeah.
So my one and so far only success story with 10 times, although it's a pretty good one, happened last fall, about a year ago, actually. So I lucked out and booked an event with the Hawaii State Realtors Association. Highly recommended if you can land that gig.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was booked to fly to Honolulu in September and go speak at this conference. And obviously, that's a long haul for anybody, but I'm on the East Coast, so it's extra long haul for me. It's like a 6 hour time change and a full day of travel.
Mhm.
So, and I'm not going to go for 48 hours and fly back home. So I made a week of it. I was able to get my wife to come with me. And I thought, well, okay, we're there for a week. Like
Mhm.
maybe there's another event, and maybe for another, hour of our 4 or 5 days of vacation time, I could be working and pay for her ticket as well. So we use 10 times to do that. So I'm going to share my screen here just to give you a little flavor. And I'm by no means an expert on this yet, but give you a flavor of the website. So the website is literally 10times.com, 10times.com. And as you can see here, find your next opportunity. You can look by all events happening today, which is not going to be particularly useful for us. Virtual events, and then you can search by location. You can search all kinds of different parameters. You can also search by sector. So if you're somebody who works does a lot of work in IT, for example, uh, and they have multiple categories here. So you can kind of go through and pick uh, which events you think might fit um,
Mhm.
what you do. So in my case, we searched by location. So I typed in Honolulu. I have to be able to spell. There we go, Honolulu, Hawaii. And then, as you can see, we'll show you events happening in Honolulu, Hawaii. Uh, you can also narrow it down. So I go back to, oh, you go here, calendar, and you can select a date on the calendar. You can select an entire month,
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
right? And so let's just do like May 2024. It says there's 8 events listed. Okay, so here are the events happening in May in Honolulu.
Hmm.
Hawaii International Conference on Arts and Humanities.
So does this
Hold
link to each event then? If you were to click on one, it's going to take you to the event page?
correct.
Okay.
So let's do this one.
Hmm.
Pacific Rim
Let's look at
International
that one in
Conference on
disability and
Disability.
diversity. I'm interested in that.
There you go. So they have a format uh, of what of the details that they will give you, and then obviously sometimes you can click through to the actual conference website
Mm,
as well. But
mhm.
this gives you some details right off the bat. So 149 people are following this event. Those could
Wow.
be anybody, could be speakers, could be people that are attending, could be who knows. So they have 3
Interesting.
speakers booked already. So may or may not need more, but who knows?
Mhm.
So you can look at those. You can look at the exhibitors who are at the trade show if you wanted to do that. Uh, or in this case, the contact information for how to be an exhibitor.
Mm.
Uh, you can look at the venue. You can look at, oh, see, I've got my one flaw with my Zoom setup is that I have my camera here right in the middle of my screen so that I can look in the camera, but that also means it obstructs part of my
Oh,
screen view. So when I'm trying to do screen sharing, I'm like looking around it, moving
yeah.
my
I've
screen
never been
around.
able to. Was it a plexicam or something? And you've got the camera lower down?
It's just on a tripod. It's
Oh,
just
is
it's a
it? Oh,
DSLR
that's
camera
good.
right on a tripod, right positioned right in the middle of my
Oh,
screen.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I've never been able to think that I could manage looking at my screen with any kind of impediment in it. Like I can't. I did too many things coming at me.
it's fair
Yeah.
enough. Uh, anyway, so it gives you the dates of the event, gives you the location,
Yeah.
lots of different details. You can click interested, and it'll send you, it'll subscribe you to updates as well,
Oh.
right?
And
So if
what
you
do you get with an update then? What did you get an email last then? If you've signed into this and created an account, I'm assuming, and then
right, so so certain portions of this uh, are free, and then more detailed information is available if you create a profile, which I've done.
okay, so you're
Um,
using a paid version?
so I'm using a paid version, and then you're going to ask me what does it cost, and I'm going to say I don't remember. But let's go and look at that and see if it tells me.
You would think
Dashboard.
pricing would be there or something. Maybe it's back on the home
Oh,
profile.
I know. Let me go here and just look for a second in an incognito window to see what it says for because I'm already logged in. I have to like log out to find them.
Right.
Log.
I'm doing this at the same time, just in case I can
Yeah,
pull it up. Um, I figured there would be a big pricing button somewhere.
you would think, right?
You would think.
I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing why sign up,
Yeah.
which is good, but I'm not seeing the price.
Interesting. Okay.
Seven use 10 times. Okay. Maybe we'll find that for you and we'll post it in a comment underneath.
Yeah, exactly. We put a link. We'll put a
Yeah.
link to that.
All I can tell you is I know it's not expensive because I'm pretty cheap. So it can't be
You're
it's
okay, cool.
not hundreds
Well,
of
I
dollars.
imagine they're making more money off the people that want to have their events listed there.
That's who's really, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It might even be free, but don't quote me on that. Anyway,
Okay.
so um oh, the Hawaii Hotel Conference. That sounds lovely. Let's go there.
What I'd love to come to as well is what was your approach then in reaching out to the conference?
Yeah.
I'm going to be in town, kind of message. And
Yeah.
so you become a deal then because travel may be already covered or may not be, depending on what you're trying to make happen.
Correct. So the biggest thing is as you scroll down here, you'll see people that are following. So you might see other industry people that you know.
Mhm.
Might be a good way to get an in that way. Um, how would you like to participate in the event? So you can click speaker here. And I believe it gives you the ability to send a message to the planner. This one might not because it's like already
Yeah,
happening.
because it has visitor, exhibitor, speaker. It doesn't have planner. That would
Uh,
event planner. Yes, please.
it gives you the event website though, almost always as
Perfect.
well. So
Yeah.
that'll take you off the site and take you directly to the event website where you can then
Yeah.
find contact info, etc. So this gives you, it gives you a little flavor of what's there. What I did is, so I had this event booked. I went and searched for the week I knew I was going to be there to see what else was happening.
Mhm.
The in There were 4 or 5 events in Honolulu because it's a meeting
Yeah.
destination location, and we reached out to all of them, basically saying, actually, I had my assistant do it because we found that when it comes from somebody else, it adds credibility,
Yeah.
right? So, and if you don't have
Mark
an
may be available to speak at your event.
right, if you
Yeah.
don't have an assistant, maybe you make one up. I'm just saying. But yeah, we've had that have that experience that the third party seems to make it more legit. And basically, yeah, the approach was much like you alluded to. It was, hey, Mark's going to be in Honolulu from this date to this date. Travel to get there is incredibly expensive, as you know.
Mhm.
Travel's covered. So it would normally be X,
Mhm.
but because Mark's already there, and I think I even did a discount on the fee as well. You don't have to do that, obviously.
Mhm.
My logic was, my logic was on the very first event. I had to stop myself from saying, as long as you'll pay for me to be in Hawaii for a few days, I will speak for free. I didn't do that, but I would have.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for fight that first instinct sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, anyway, and so we reached out to 3 or 4 organizations. One of them popped back, the International Pet and Animal Transportation Association. Didn't know they existed. They were having a meeting 2 days after the event I was speaking at
Yeah.
and said, "Oh, Mark sounds really great." And we went back and forth a couple of times and boom, boom, and deal was done.
So
So,
amazing.
yeah, no, go ahead.
How far in advance? Now, because I got booked in August for event in October kind of thing. So I've seen in the last couple of years, we saw event planning times tighten with uncertainty. What are you noticing as you've been looking at 10 times in terms of lead time to really have this be a relevant conversation?
I think it depends fairly significantly on the size of the event more than it does on where it is. So, this is, and again, anecdotal, right? We don't have a lot of data on it, but my experience has been the smaller events, regional events, municipal kind of level events, or even provincial events have a shorter timeline. Typically, national events bigger, international events bigger
Anything
than.
that says annual event is probably a good, but you need to be months out.
Right, right, exactly, right. So if you were looking to, you got some stuff planned in December or January, and you want to try and book some things around it, then you're probably looking at a smaller,
Mhm.
closer area
Right.
to try and capitalize on that. Versus if you can do a year out, like, oh, in next fall we're gonna go to Europe
Yeah.
anyway, right? But
Exactly, exactly. So it pays if you're a planner in this case.
definitely helpful if you're a planner and or if you've got events already on your calendar, right?
That's
For
right.
some of us have, I wish I had my full calendar planned a year ahead, certainly don't, but a couple of things on the calendar for 2024, and you can kind of go look and go, okay, can I book? And yeah, the pitch, and we've done this successfully even before I used 10 times. um I think in Canada especially, people get it, US as well, because we're such large geographic
Mm,
nations, right?
yeah,
And because travel has gotten even more expensive,
yeah,
it becomes a factor, right? And so if you can say to a client, hey, you have an opportunity to get this expert who typically you probably aren't going to bother flying in because they live on the other side of the country or whatever,
yeah.
they're already going to be in town. That's not necessarily the deciding factor, but it's certainly a
It's
contributing factor
helpful. Yeah, it's
to,
helpful for sure.
right?
I'm
When I say to
connecting.
them, like, I showed them a map, right? And I was like, here's New Brunswick, here's Hawaii.
Yeah,
We couldn't be further apart. Mark's already going to be there. Like, you're never going to bring him in. But if this appeals to you, this is a great opportunity. And they were like, yeah, this makes total sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm thinking as well, because they list virtual events, I'm connecting this to the E1 conversation, the visa conversation that's going on
Mm,
right now. And I think we've got about 17 or 18 people working on getting their E1 visas. If you can look at this site to then find virtual events and plan around that, virtual business can count towards your E1 visa application, which is phenomenal. So, and you don't need the visa to get that. So it's kind of, it seems
right,
like a
right.
really useful tool all around.
Good tool to find some international
Yeah.
virtual events to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Virtual or in a location. So
Green. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, brilliant idea. An amazing tool, and something I'm going to be looking at, because there's also conferences I want to attend
Right.
next year, and that's always very location dependent. I'm like, Long Beach in April sounds good. What else can I do while I'm there? So just connecting the dots and trying to make travel make sense from a time, energy, and finance point of view.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really helpful. Any final thoughts on?
Um, no, I mean, I think that whole idea of, and again, I take for granted because I've had this mentality from the get go because I started working, doing my speaking business, began working in schools where they were super budget conscious because they just have no money.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm already in the area was such a selling feature for them that
Yeah.
that's always kind of been a mentality for us. And
Yeah.
so, for example, like I have an event with an organization in BC in October where we're 3 stops over a week in Langley and Surrey and Victoria.
Oh
And
yeah.
we're reaching out to other organizations in those cities for the in between days to say, hey, Mark's on the other side of the country. You're saving on airfare.
Yeah.
It may or may not pan out, but they are great. It's also, to me, it's a good excuse to reach out to an organization because you're being helpful, right? It's not like, hey,
Yes.
please book me. It's like, maybe this is helpful to you and maybe it's not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be a really good angle to, and a kind of a way to put you above other speakers who they might be considering.
That's true, right? Yeah. Yeah. I think it comes across as generous and creative at the same time. Yeah.
Well, and it's one less thing for them to worry about. Like, I'm already going to be in town. In other words, I'm going to be there at least 2 days before because I'm at this other event. So you
Yeah.
don't have to stress that I'm going to be there. You don't have to book my airfare. Like, that's a
Yeah.
big deal these days because airfare is, or air travel is much better than it was, but it's less
You're
of a
still
sure thing.
playing, you're still playing with a lot, you're rolling a lot of dice with travel still, whether it's technology, weather, illness, all of it is up there. So the longer the trip, it's better for speakers, and it's better for the events as well, if
Better
you
for
can
team
plan to
planners.
have a base, for a few days. I know, as a highly sensitive person, I don't want to be taking 6 a.m. flights. I want to be rested. I want to have buffer, all of this. And so designing in well-being is part of it. And this fits into that conversation too. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. Thanks so much, Mark.
My pleasure. No, I hope it's helpful.